Every year, tens of thousands of Americans pack a U-Haul, drive across the country full of optimism, and 3 months after unloading their furniture, sit on that same furniture, wondering what on earth they were thinking. Moving is one of the biggest financial decisions most people make, and a surprising number make it based on one YouTube video, a friend who swears their city is great, or a Zillow listing that made the neighborhood look like it had its act together. It usually doesn't. Now, before the comment section loads up, none of these cities are pure disaster. Everyone has people who love living there. That's not the point. The point is that if you're coming from outside without knowing the layout, the history, or the math, these are the cities most likely to hand you a very expensive lesson. Not because the internet says so, because the data says so. Stick around to number 1. It's the city people move to chasing a dream the price tag already killed. Let's get into it. Connecticut is one of the wealthiest states in the country. People hear that and assume the whole thing is comfortable suburbs with good coffee and fall foliage. Then they move to Bridgeport. Bridgeport is Connecticut's largest city and consistently ranks among its poorest. Violent crime runs significantly above national averages. Property taxes are among the highest in a state already famous for taxing people hard. And the economic gap between Bridgeport and the wealthy suburbs surrounding it is one of the sharpest contrasts you'll find anywhere on the East Coast. Here's what catches people. They see Connecticut, they see housing costs lower than Manhattan or Boston, and they think they've found the cheat code. They haven't. They've found a city that's been struggling for decades, sitting in the shadow of one of the wealthiest regions in the country. That shadow is not free. Rockford is 2 hours from Chicago, and people figure it's basically Chicago but affordable. That's not how it works. Rockford has dealt with decades of economic decline tied to the loss of its manufacturing base. Violent crime sits significantly above national averages, poverty is persistent, and the job market has never fully recovered from the industrial contraction that hit this region hard. The housing is cheap, that part is real. But cheap housing in a city with limited economic opportunity and elevated crime isn't a deal. It's a trade-off. The people who move here expecting Chicago proximity without Chicago problems find they got neither. Not the opportunity, not the stability. Rockford is working on it, but working on it and ready for newcomers are two very different phases. Gary was once one of the most important industrial cities in America. Peak population was approaching 180,000. Today, it's around 70,000. That's not a typo. The numbers are difficult. Violent crime rates are among the highest in the nation. Poverty is severe. Large sections of the city show the accumulated weight of decades of disinvestment. Vacant lots, abandoned structures, infrastructure that hasn't kept pace. Gary sits right next to Chicago on the southern shore of Lake Michigan. The scenery can actually be striking near the lakefront. There's something to the place. But moving here for an affordable Midwest life without doing serious research first is a decision that tends to go badly. The low home price is a signal, not a deal. Shreveport has been losing population steadily for years. Crime rates, both violent and property, run well above national averages. Infrastructure and city services have faced consistent strain. And unlike New Orleans, which has a global tourism identity pulling people in, Shreveport doesn't have that same draw to absorb the friction. People come for cheap housing and low cost of living. Those numbers are real. But cost of living figures don't tell you about the elevated insurance costs, the economic uncertainty of a shrinking city, or a job market without much depth if you're building from scratch. People with deep roots here build good lives, that's true. But for someone relocating in 2026 without a prior connection to the city, it demands research most people don't do. Stockton filed for municipal bankruptcy in 2012, one of the largest in U.S. history at the time. The city has recovered in a technical sense, but the underlying conditions haven't all resolved. Crime has historically tracked significantly above national averages. The cost of living has crept up as California's housing crisis expanded inland, but wages haven't kept pace in the same way. You get a city that used to be affordable and is now just expensive enough to hurt,
while still carrying the crime and infrastructure challenges of a place that's been underfunded for a long time. People flee the Bay Area, see Central Valley home prices, and feel relief. That relief has an expiration date. Stockton is not the Bay Area's affordable alternative. It's a different city entirely, and walking in expecting Bay Area quality for Stockton prices is how people end up frustrated within a year. Baton Rouge looks good on paper. State capital, major university, energy sector jobs, some genuinely nice neighborhoods. People move here expecting a smaller, more manageable New Orleans. Flooding is a consistent and serious concern. Infrastructure has struggled to keep up with rainfall patterns and development, and Louisiana's property insurance market has become one of the most difficult in the country. Multiple insurers have reduced or pulled coverage after recent hurricane seasons. Homeowners have watched premiums climb sharply. An affordable house plus a brutal insurance bill is not the deal it looked like. The traffic on major corridors punishes you for a city of its size. And if you're coming without a job offer already lined up in energy or government, the job market has real limitations worth knowing before you sign anything.
Hartford is the capital of one of the wealthiest states in the nation. It should be a functioning city. Hartford came close to municipal bankruptcy in 2017 and required a state financial rescue package. Violent crime rates are significantly above national averages for a city its size. Poverty is concentrated and persistent, and the property tax burden for owners inside city limits is steep. Here's what stings. Hartford is surrounded by some of the wealthiest suburbs in America. The economic contrast between the city and its surroundings is one of the sharpest you'll find anywhere in the country. That contrast isn't just visual, it has direct consequences for services, schools, and daily life. Connecticut's wealth is real. Hartford's piece of it has been limited. Camden has had a rough few decades. For a long time, it was cited as one of the most challenged cities in the country. There have been genuine reform efforts and real investment more recently, and it would be wrong to ignore that. But Camden still carries significant challenges. Poverty rates remain high. The economic base is thin. Crime, while improved from historic peaks in some measurements, still tracks above national averages. The dangerous thing in 2026 is that people see positive coverage about Camden's recovery efforts and treat that as a green light. Recovery and ready to move to are not the same phase. Cities in recovery are often in a complicated middle state that rewards patience far more than it rewards newcomers showing up without a clear plan or support network.
Flint made international news for its water infrastructure crisis, one of the most covered public health failures in recent American memory. Significant remediation work has been done, and federal investment has come in. That's real. But Flint's challenges didn't begin and don't end with water. Severe population loss, an economic base that collapsed with the auto industry, poverty rates among the highest in Michigan, violent crime that remains elevated. These are documented, ongoing realities. People see the positive recovery headlines and assume Flint is a hidden gem. That leap is not supported by the data. There's a difference between a city that was in crisis and is improving, and a city that has finished rebuilding its foundation. Flint is in the first category, not the second. Not yet. Baltimore is one of the most frustrating cities to talk about because it has genuine substance and genuine difficulty running side by side. The Inner Harbor, Johns Hopkins, world-class medical institutions, walkable neighborhoods with real roots, proximity to D.C., housing prices that are actually accessible by East Coast standards. There's a lot here. And the violent crime numbers are serious. Baltimore has consistently ranked among the highest per capita violent crime rates of any large American city. Homicide rates in particular have drawn sustained national attention for years. That's not internet noise. That's documented, persistent, and not easily resolved despite significant resources being directed at it. The geographic variance inside Baltimore is enormous. Some blocks are fine, some blocks are not. Someone arriving without that granular local knowledge is making decisions blind. That's the part that gets people.
Detroit has improved in some real ways. Downtown investment is visible. Midtown has energy. Some neighborhoods have genuine community momentum. Let's be clear about that. But the gap between improved Detroit and still struggling Detroit is enormous, and newcomers land on the wrong side of it constantly. Vacancy rates, concentrated poverty, service reliability issues, these don't get resolved quickly. The population is still a fraction of its peak, and that has compounding consequences for tax base, infrastructure maintenance, and city services that no amount of downtown murals fixes. Move to Detroit in 2026 with specific local knowledge and financial patience, and there's a case for it. Move because the house prices look incredible and you watched one optimistic video, and you'll likely end up the cautionary tale you didn't think you'd become. Memphis keeps appearing in national crime data because the numbers are genuinely hard to argue with. Violent crime rates rank Memphis among the highest of any major American city, year after year across multiple independent sources. This is not hyperbole, it's the math. Poverty rates are significant. Population decline in parts of the city is documented. Some neighborhoods are genuinely fine. The food is legitimately excellent. That's not nothing. The music history is real and deep, and the housing costs are low. But people who see low prices in a southern city and assume they're getting a charming bargain get an education fast. Memphis requires local knowledge most newcomers don't bring, and the crime data is not something you navigate through optimism.
St. Louis has posted a per capita violent crime rate that has consistently ranked it among the most dangerous cities in the country. Not by total numbers, St. Louis is not a massive city, but by rate, by the statistical reality of what daily life looks like across the city. That distinction matters, and most people miss it. Total crime counts favor big cities. Rates tell you the truth about what living somewhere actually feels like. And St. Louis's rate has, in multiple recent years, been among the highest in the nation. Beautiful architecture. Forest Park is one of the genuinely great urban parks in America. The cost of living is low. Good neighborhoods exist, but the variance between blocks is steep, and someone arriving without a detailed local map is genuinely gambling. Jackson made national headlines for a crisis most American cities simply don't face. The water system failed, not a temporary boil notice, a sustained months-long period where residents of Mississippi's capital city did not have reliable access to safe running water. The infrastructure issues extend beyond water. Roads, services, the overall investment gap in the city's physical foundation, documented and serious. Population has declined significantly. The tax base has contracted. Poverty rates are among the highest of any state capital in the country. Mississippi is affordable. Jackson specifically has some of the lowest home prices you'll find in any city of comparable size. That number is real, but understanding why that number is what it is, the full context, the infrastructure fragility, what daily life in a city running on a strained foundation actually looks like, that's the part Zillow doesn't photograph.
New Orleans might be the most seductive trap on this entire list, because New Orleans is genuinely, undeniably extraordinary. The food, the music, the culture, the architecture, the energy. Anyone who says New Orleans has nothing going for it has never actually been there. But here is what the dream doesn't include on the brochure. Violent crime in New Orleans is serious. The city has consistently posted homicide rates among the highest in the country on a per capita basis. That's a persistent, documented reality that hasn't resolved. Louisiana's insurance market is in crisis. Homeowners in New Orleans face some of the highest property insurance costs in the country. Multiple insurers have reduced or exited the state after consecutive difficult hurricane seasons. You can buy a beautiful, historic home in a stunning neighborhood and receive an insurance quote that completely rewrites your monthly budget. The flood risk is not hypothetical. New Orleans sits below sea level in significant portions. That geography has not changed. That geography has consequences. Not maybe, not someday. routinely. People move here because they fell in love with it on a trip, or followed the food culture, or assumed lower than coastal costs meant smart value. Then they spend 2 years getting educated in exactly why those costs are what they are. The insurance math, the flood math, the crime math. It's a lot of math that people skip because the city is so easy to love. That's why it's number 1. The dream is convincing enough that people skip the research. And skipping the research in New Orleans is how you make the most expensive mistake on this entire list. None of these cities are worthless. People build real, good lives in every single one of them. That's true. The point is that moving is expensive, hard to undo quickly, and most people don't research it nearly enough. These cities have specific, documented challenges that tend to surprise newcomers who didn't look carefully before committing. Do your homework. Talk to people who actually live there, not just the ones selling you on it. Read the data. Understand the neighborhood, not just the city name. What city on this list surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments. I'll read them. Have a great day. Be good to each other.